Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a breathtaking, nerve-wracking account from the depths of the geopolitical inferno. This is your moderator speaking with the voice of thunder guiding you through the stormy waters of the Persian Gulf. Imagine the Strait of Hormuz, that narrow gateway of the world economy where oil flows are worth billions and where the hatred between superpowers explodes like a firework of missiles and revenge. In this January 2026, in the middle of a month that sets the world on fire, a drama unfolds that blurs the lines between tactics and terror. Iran and the USA, two giants facing each other with relentless grudge driven by decades of mistrust, religious fervor, and imperial greed. The Iranians led by the regime in Tehran that takes the world hostage, and the Americans with their unshakable arrogance that portrays them as digital gods of war. Oh, the hatred seethes here like lava in a volcano. Every movement is a slap in the face of the enemy. Every missile a cry for retribution. Let's dive into this story, which doesn't just pump facts, but pure adrenaline with additional shocking details that will take your breath away. Do you know what happens when hatred escalates? Catastrophes that drag the world economy into the abyss, and secrets that are revealed like hidden nuclear plans or covert alliances with rogue states. Stay tuned, because this isn't a dry report, it's a radioactive spectacle. First, the scene. At 2:47 p.m. in this explosive January 2026, a massive electronic pulse tears through the silence in the Strait of Hormuz. 50 Iranian fast attack boats, those nimble, lethal wasps of the sea, start their engines and surround the USS Tempest in a deadly swarm at 70 knots. The Iranians believe they have lured a multi-billion-dollar prize into a trap, a US warship they can humiliate and present as a trophy. But oh, what a fatal error. They have just stepped into a titanic slaughterhouse, a masterpiece of American deception that strikes with bloody precision. The hatred between the sides is palpable. The IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, sees the Americans as the incarnation of Satan, while the US Navy brands the Iranians as a barbaric threat trying to blackmail the free world. And do you know what makes the whole thing even greedier? Rumors from intelligence circles whisper of Iranian spies who have infiltrated US ports, and of American drones that were already circling invisibly over Tehran months ago to scout for weaknesses. The conflict is not just military, it is personal, vengeful, a duel of cultures that strikes terror into the world. The USS Tempest is the bait, and the devastating blow is already in flight. 120 Tomahawk missiles and Mach-5 hypersonic weapons race toward Bandar Abbas, ready to turn the heart of the Iranian Navy into liquid fire. The Iranians' S-400 systems panic, the bunkers tremble, and the air is about to explode. Can Bandar Abbas survive 45 seconds of American fury, or will the IRGC be erased from the map? The first impact is only 3 seconds away, and the world holds its breath. Imagine the tension. Iranian commanders, drenched in sweat in their underground bunkers, scream orders while US pilots grin in their cockpits, knowing they are bringing the enemy to their knees. The hatred escalates. The Iranians previously used Houthi allies to attack Saudi supertankers, catapulting oil prices to $120 per barrel and driving the global economy to ruin. And the Americans, they respond with an ultimatum from President Trump that echoes like a thunderclap. Free the tankers or face the fire. Tehran's reaction: a slap in the face that plunges the world into chaos. Fill up your tank. It feels like buying a Rolex at every stop. Flashback to this January 2026, Tehran decides to take the world economy hostage. From the underground missile city of Imam Khomeini, the IRGC tests the Fateh 2 anti-ship missile, shaking global shipping traffic. The result? A 100-kilometer-long line of oil tankers frozen at the entrance of the Strait of Hormuz. By January 15th, the crisis becomes deadly. Houthi proxies strike, sinking a Saudi supertanker and driving oil prices to dizzying heights. The world stands on the brink of a global depression. Factories' close jobs disappear and hatred for Iran grows like a cancer. Trump gives a final ultimatum. Free the tankers or experience the fire. Tehran's answer. Arrogant and provocative, as if they wanted to lure the USA into war. On January 18th, they attacked the Maersk Honor with a false distress signal, towing it under the protection of the guns of Bandar Abbas. On January 20th at 2:30 p.m., the USS Tempest is sent into the Lion's Den. While patrolling near Bandar Abbas, 3 Shahed Soleimani-class fast attack boats cut across its bow. Weapons hot. At 2:47 p.m., the Tempest sends a panicked distress call. Engine failure, dead in the water, requesting help from IRGC commanders. This is the ultimate propaganda victory for Iran, a lonely U.S. destroyer, isolated and helpless. They order every available fast attack boat to strike and capture the prize. 5 minutes after the distress call in the IRGC command center, the Ghadir over-the-horizon radar confirms the catch. The USS Tempest is 120 miles away from its carrier escort. Tehran bites, believing they have a window to humiliate the US Navy before the fleet can react. Dozens of high-speed fast attack boats, supported by a handful of Shahed Soleimani missile corvettes in Bandar Abbas, start their engines. They gather at 3 main piers, preparing a massive swarm of 1,500. They think they are planning a carrier killer ambush. In reality, they have packed a significant portion of visible Iranian naval power into a high-density Tomahawk death zone. But the US Navy isn't finished with Tehran's greed yet. At 2:55 p.m., the false flag masterstroke, the NSA and Navy Cyber Command initiate a NOAA satellite spoof. Suddenly, Iranian sensors see a massive high-value Saudi supertanker drifting helplessly 80 kilometers out in the strait. For the IRGC, this is a multi-billion-dollar propaganda victory and the ultimate oil lever. They don't just send the swarm, they commit everything. Iranian commanders order their elite Bavar 373 batteries to reposition, extending their defensive umbrella to cover the tanker seizure operation. Their Fateh missile batteries are placed on full alert. They believe they are winning the theater. In fact, they have moved every high-value asset of Iran into the center of a digital bullseye. The hatred blazes. The Iranians see the Saudis and Americans as accomplices in a Zionist plot, while the USA brands Iran as an axis of evil that threatens with nuclear weapons and exports terror. And a greedy addition. Sources from the Pentagon whisper of secret alliances. Iran is said to have cooperated with North Korean missile specialists to improve their hypersonic weapons, which panics the USA and turns the conflict into a global powder keg. At 3:05 p.m. in the Combat Information Center of the Lincoln Swift Guardian, execute. The sky over Bandar Abbas doesn't just change, it ignites salvo. One hits the piers in exactly 12 seconds. 20 Tomahawk Block 5 missiles guided by the Aegis Godbrain slam into the clustered Iranian fleet. Pier 1 becomes an 1,800-degree oven, while corvettes and fast attack boats become molten scrap. Secondary explosions from Iranian ammunition depots turn the harbor into a self-destructing nightmare. Salvo 2 follows immediately. 12 Tomahawk Block 5B missiles equipped with the JMU, specifically for electronic and hard targets, shatter the 4 Bavar 373 sites. 3 missiles per battery ensure that even Iran's most advanced indigenous air defense system is reduced to titanium confetti before it can fire a single interceptor. Simultaneously, EA-18G Growlers flood the zone with next-generation jamming, turning the Gator radar into a screen of useless static. Then comes the Rapid Hammer 5 LRHW Dark Eagle hypersonic missiles launched from forward-deployed sites race through the atmosphere at Mach-5+. They don't just hit the Imam Khomeini bunker, they perform a structural lobotomy. 3 missiles penetrate 30 meters of reinforced concrete, detonating in the command nodes. 2 more strike the fuel depots, triggering an 8,000-ton JP-5 Inferno that cooks 200 Fateh missiles in their own launch tubes. Bandar Abbas is not just attacked, it is obliterated. In 45 seconds, the heart of the IRGC has turned from a fortress into a graveyard. And for the swarm chasing a ghost tanker 80 kilometers out, the nightmare is only beginning. The US Navy didn't bring a knife to a gunfight, it brought a digital god to an execution. But hold on tight, dear listeners. The hatred turns around. Iran strikes back with a ruse intended to bring the Americans to their knees. At 3:07 p.m. from hidden coves along the Makran coast, from camouflage launchers deep in the Zagros Mountains, and from hundreds of low-signature Peykop and Tandar-class fast attack boats that were never at the piers, never part of the clustered bait. The real swarm breaks out. The clustered ships in Bandar Abbas were decoys' older hulls, remote-controlled dummies with minimal crews ready to sacrifice themselves for the greater deception. The real IRGC fleet, hundreds of agile missile-armed speedboats, had dispersed hours earlier under the cover of electronic noise and civilian traffic. While the Lincoln Strike Group celebrates the apparent kill Iranian cyber units reinforced by captured American code from earlier breaches, flood the Aegis networks with false tracks and spoofed IFF signals. The ghost tanker disappears from sensors revealed as another layer of the ruse. Simultaneously, waves of Shahed 136 loitering munitions upgraded with anti-radar seekers sweep toward the carrier group from multiple vectors, forcing the destroyers to burn SM-6 interceptors at unsustainable rates. Then the hammer falls from the other direction. Dozens of Feta 110 derivatives launched from mobile TELs that survived the bunker attacks rain down on the Lincoln's escorts. An Arleigh Burke-class destroyer takes a direct hit amidships, crippling its VLS. The Abraham Lincoln, now exposed, scrambles its air wing, but too late. The IRGC's Steel Wave was never about winning the first round. It was about drawing the predator close, bleeding it dry, and turning technological arrogance into the perfect trap. In the Lincoln's CIC, the cheers turn to stunned silence as new contacts flood the scopes. Tehran hasn't just lost a fleet, they sacrificed a bait to win the war of attrition. The hunters have become the hunted, and the Strait of Hormuz becomes the graveyard of hubris on both sides. At 3:08 p.m., the Strait of Hormuz turns into a cauldron of fire. Tehran's Steel Wave is no longer a ghost. It is 80 Fateh 110 missiles screaming out of the Zagros Mountains. In the Lincoln CIC, the digital godbrain filters through the Iranian spoofing and locks onto the swarm. Aegis Baseline 10 takes control. 32 SM-6 and SM-2 missiles leap from the escorting destroyers, erasing 40 inbound tracks in the upper atmosphere, but the saturation is merciless. 12 missiles leak through sea skimming at 10 meters toward the carrier hull. The fight moves into the danger close zone. Mach-3 missiles chase the Lincoln, but the system of systems is ready. The carrier's ram launchers spew 16 interceptors, splashing 10 more threats only 4,000 meters away. Finally, the Phalanx CIWS screams at 4,000 rounds per minute, shredding the penultimate missile into titanium confetti. The last Fateh, blinded by high-power jammers, misses by 5 meters. A massive whitewater geyser shakes the carrier bridge, but the Abraham Lincoln is untouched. The Predator now retracts its claws to finish the kill. E-2, D Hawkeye's Vector 12 Super Hornets and 4 MH-60R Seahawks to the hidden coves. The execution is surgical. Hellfire missiles and JSOW glide bombs turn the remaining 100 fast attack boats into burning scrap metal in less than 3 minutes. The battle damage assessment is absolute. 100% of the IRGC swarm neutralized, 40% of the total Iranian ballistic inventory obliterated, and the Imam Khomeini bunker is now an underground grave. Tehran sacrificed a decoy fleet to win the round. Washington sacrificed 45 seconds to win the war. The Strait of Hormuz is open, and the world learns in this January 2026 that the digital god of the Atlantic has no mercy for hubris. But let's pause, my loyal listeners. What do you think about this? Is this the ultimate proof of American superiority, or has Iran shown with its ruse that hatred is invincible? Share your thoughts in the comments. Was this a masterpiece of deception or a bloody mistake? Let's discuss, because your opinions make this radio come alive. While this operation remains a high-stakes fictional projection of modern naval warfare, the technologies and the deadly stakes in the strait are 100% real. The hunters were hunted, and in this definitive simulation, the heart of the IRGC was ripped out. The annihilation strike on Bandar Abbas didn't just end a battle, it rewrote the rules of 21st century warfare. Within 24 hours of the final impact, the global economic stranglehold was broken. Crude oil prices, which had climbed to a fearsome $120 per barrel, plunged to $68 as the Strait of Hormuz was opened 100% for international trade. The 100-kilometer tanker line didn't just move, it surged forward, continuing the flow of $2.5 trillion in annual trade. For the average consumer, the Hormuz tax vanished overnight. The Rolex gas tank became a Ford reality again. Strategically, Trump's doctrine of peace through strength was validated in fire. By choosing a preemptive surgical strike instead of a long war of attrition, the USA achieved a total mission kill with 0 platform losses. The heart of the IRGC was not just injured, it was extracted. Iran lost 100% of its Bandar Abbas swarm fleet and 40% of its entire ballistic missile inventory in under 15 minutes. Tehran's steel wave proved to be 100 years obsolete against the digital godbrain of Aegis Baseline 10. But the nightmare for the IRGC is only beginning. While the regime in Tehran declares a strategic retreat to preserve what is left of its power, the internal fallout is catastrophic. Iran's GDP will shrink by 15% as its ballistic deterrent collapses. To save face, Tehran switches to its proxy playbook, sending Shahed drones to Houthi rebels and harassing US bases in Iraq. But the world now knows the truth. When the masks fall, Iran's conventional shield is made of paper. The message to peer competitors like China and Russia is loud and clear. Beijing watches Bandar Abbas as a fearsome preview of what an amphibious rehearsal in the Taiwan Strait against American hypersonic weapons would mean. Moscow realizes that swarm tactics in the Black Sea are useless against a system of systems that sees through the noise. This simulation serves as a brutal reminder in the high-stakes chess game of the Strait hubris is the shortest path to a billion-dollar funeral. While the events depicted are a tactical projection, the Mach-5 speeds and Aegis sensors are 100% operational today. Is Bandar Abbas the template for the next strike on a nuclear facility? Does this prove that swarm tactics are dead, or did the USA just get lucky? Let us know your tactical takes in the comments. Type Strat Strike to show your support for the fleet. Hit the like button.